Hey everybody, Planet Walls here. Welcome to a classic daily event. These things are firing again. I wanted to show you the updated list of Mishra's Birthing, as it is now being called by me. So the deck functions on largely the same basis as the prior version that I took through Classic League. It's been tuned a little bit better. There were actually some things that made it to the final version of the previous deck that were accidental. I was finishing it up at the deadline and had to submit it. There's one more land in the deck, I believe, and it's a Phyrexian Tower, which you may not have ever heard of before, but it's awesome. There's one fewer Skull Clamp. The number of 1-drops, which were low impact, were reduced. There were 4, 2 of each of these guys. I actually was playing only Heat Delves for a while because I thought they were generally more effective than Hex Parasite. But in this particular build, I decided that Hex Parasite had enough utility as one of the 1-drops to warrant playing. Part of the idea there involves just using Birthing Pod as a sort of tutor with spirit tokens from Forbidden Orchard, for instance. There's a split between Grim Monolith and Silvermere. I wanted another 2-drop creature, but I cut one of the Revokers. They weren't generally that effective. I'm actually making this video in between the first and second rounds of this DE, not really beforehand, which, I mean, basically what I'm trying to say is I think that Silvermere is right, but Revoker is actually useful in some matchups that you may not expect it to be. I believe I increased the 3-drop count. I cut one of the Junk Divers, which is highly questionable. Palladium Mirror is in here as a card that helps ramp in dramatic ways, and I think it's actually pretty scary. It's a creature, too, which is important for Birthing Pod. Deceiver, Exarch, and Trinket Mage occupy the 3-drop slot now. This gives me a lot more utility with potting from a Retriever to something else. Before I only had the Junk Diver option, which wasn't exciting most of the time. But now there are a couple more options. Let me just blow these up here in case you're unfamiliar with what these cards do. Deceiver Exarch can untap a Birthing Pod, so I can pod directly from a 2-drop to a 4-drop, which is good if I want a Lodestone Golem out. By the way, there are 2 more Lodestone Golems in this version. It's also a Metamorph, which has a lot of utility on a number of different fronts. Trinket Mage is really generally a really good ramp spell because it can tutor for Hex Parasite and Doll. That was part of the reason that I included a Hex Parasite at all in here. It also finds a Skull Clamp, which is really good, and ramp. Then the Seats of the Synod, which are the artifact lands that I'm including in this version. Can also find a Mana Crypt if I need Rapid Ramp, or Mox Opal if I need a certain color mana. Which is good for the Zealous Conscripts, which is now the only card that is never really castable if it's in your hand except for Mox Opal. Worth noting. So again, these guys are blue. We got a Silvermere, Phyrexian Metamorph, and Frost Titan. All these are castable with blue lands. Only running 3 artifact lands now. I forgot to mention this. There's a basic forest in here that makes it possible to use Birthing Pod, especially when you're playing against aggro decks that might be running Path or Ghost Quarter. Helps you find the thing that reduces the amount of pain you have to take from Birthing Pod, which I think was the right decision. So it's kind of odd that you're running 1 basic forest and then 3 seats, but I think that makes the most sense in the end. 5-drop slot I reduced by 1. Was playing a Precursor Golem. I decided because of Nature's Claim. It made Precursor Golem pretty bad, especially when Salvage Titan is also a Golem and Lodestone Golems are Golems. So it would turn their Nature's Claim into like a one-sided Wrath of God where I gain 20 life, but still be bad. So I reduced that. For a while I was looking at Karn. Karn can make a Birthing Pod into a creature. Then it can even sacrifice itself to birth something, kind of like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the Virgin Birth. Something. Whatever, I don't know. The point being that you can turn Birthing Pod into a dude to attack, Grim Monoliths and other stuff into attackers, which is cool. Can kill opponents' Lotus Petals, but not sure it was the best dude for the job, so I'm playing this guy that is shocking, I think, probably for a classic deck. It kills Delvers that are unflipped, it kills some utility guys, it kills Bob. I'm surprised at how good it is. With Phyrexian Tower, it's occasionally hard castable without the Phyrexian mana. But I think this guy is actually good. Mainly because he basically costs 4 to play. But most people playing Slash Panther a little while ago in their shop decks, I think that's good if you're running an aggro deck, but the fact that this guy has a toughness of 4 makes him hard to die. So weird card, still on the fence about it, but I think it's good. Chris talked me into running a Worm Coil engine to gain some life. You'll find that it's relevant, sadly in an unfortunate way, in the first round that you'll watch. By the way, it's a really good round. It's worth watching. I'm playing against a deck I'm unfamiliar playing against, and I think I'll just go ahead and spoil this. So pause or skip ahead 5 seconds if you don't want to hear it. I lose the match. but it happens in the most interesting and entertaining way possible, especially given that I didn't know what was going on with my opponent's deck at first. I knew it was a Hermit Druid deck, but I didn't know what sorts of options he would have from the sideboard. This is something I just need to get used to because I'm still new to the format. And in Classic League, you can see your opponent's decks. Here you can't in a daily event, obviously, unless they played beyond the first round. Duplicant is still here. Frost Titan has moved to the main. This is one of the most powerful cards in the deck, actually. It deals with Oath. It can ruin a control deck's day. Tapping down a land permanently is fantastic. It is very hard to kill when people have so few lands. You have to target it. You have to pay 2. It's very difficult to do. So the Wormcoil gains life back, as we said before. It's also castable fairly easily. Only 2 Salvage Titans. This is questionable. The other option is to go back to 4 Skull Clamp because it's insane. Play a second Junk Diver and play a 3rd Salvage Titan. I would have to cut some stuff. One of them might be a Lodestone Golem, maybe a Frogmite, maybe something else, probably 1-drop. And those are the cards that I would cut. Salvage Titan is actually really powerful as a sacrifice outlet, and I do miss having the 3rd one in the deck. With that being said, it was usually bad to draw more than one of them. And he doesn't do that much on the board if you get him out late. Like if they have a way to deal with him, it can be very unfortunate if you don't get to efficiently use his sacrifice ability. Platinum Angel is the new main deck card. It's because it's castable primarily, but it offers an opportunity to win games that I don't think were otherwise winnable. It can fly, it can block Delvers, it can die to 2 Lightning Bolts, and it can be killed by artifact removal, and in that way it is worse than Elesh Norn. But I wasn't convinced that Elesh Norn would be good in the DE metagame as much as the Classic League metagame, mainly because I saw a lot of Snapcasters, Bobs, and Delvers in the Classic League metagame, but I wasn't necessarily seeing that in the DEs. So we'll look at the sideboard now. 2 Tormod scripts are still there. Instead of a 3rd Tormod script, which I believe I was playing before, I'm playing Pithing Needle, which can be tutored up with a Trinket Mage. Trinket Mage can, of course, be tutored up with Birthing Pod, which is good. Pithing Needle is good against Dredge because it can name Bazaar. It's good against a number of things, can deal with a Jace. I'm glad I have it in here. Then you've got the Thorns and the Trinisphere. This is if I want to transform into sort of a straight-up pod deck, not pod deck, workshop deck, if I'm worried that my Birthing Pods are going to be dealt with in a certain way. And finally, we put a Lawan in here, which is hypothetically good. Shieldred has taken the place of the Elesh Norn. This guy keeps messaging me, so 1 second. Shieldred, this might just be worse than Elesh Norn. It can be double lightning bolted, which is the reason it's pretty bad. It can be hard cast with a Phyrexian Tower, rare but possible. Swamp Walk is an interesting ability. I think it's kind of funny that I use one of these other Praetors, but here's the thing, like, this helps you accrue value in the late game if you can manage to get this down in a way that Elesh Norn didn't always. So it forces them to sacrifice a creature. This is very different from what Elesh Norn did. Elesh Norn functions as a conditional and situational Wrath of God that also wins you the game very quickly. This is different. It's a bit more of a control card. If they're playing an aggro deck like Merfolk, sometimes their guys survive the Elesh Norn and they can come back to deal with it very easily, especially if you're low in life, which you often were if you had an Elesh Norn in play, because it took a while to get there. But this is at least an interesting option, I think. So they sacrifice creatures during their upkeep. It actually has some relevance against show and tell versions of Oath, where they take a little bit to get their Emrakul out, if they don't have the Dragon Breath, basically. And you get to accrue value by bringing a creature back. So, I don't know. I think it might be good. Not sure. Indrik Stomphowler has made it into the sideboard still. It was before. But I cut the Acidic Slime. The Acidic Slime, while good, it was always in my hand. And the one thing I'm regretting is that I have no way to kill artifacts or enchantments in the main, which is really a problem. Frost Titan's the closest thing you can come to doing that. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it's something that I'm interested in, seeing how it handles basically decks that have artifacts in the main, or enchantments rather. So here it is. I think this is a much better version of the deck. You'll have to watch it play round 1, and of course for the rest of the tournament. So I look forward to playing again. It's really fun. I think I'll keep trying to play this in DEs, and I think someone else should try it and take it for a spin. Maybe you can find a way to improve this deck. Because I think that there's something in Birthing Pod. I think it's really good. And some of these other cards in Classic, it's shocking that they're good, but they are. So yeah, give it a go. Take this through a DE. Spend some ticks on birthing pods if you don't have them, or the classic cards if you don't have those. And take it for a test drive because it's really fun. You have a ton of options main deck, and you can usually F6 through your opponent's turn because you have no way to interact with them. So that's just another plus. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.